wonderful. You really are.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ronnie Oliver. I'm the Health Education Manager here at UACDC. I'm here with Jon and Dhalia with the Well, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about what the Well is and what the Well does.
Thanks, Ronnie. The Well is really a community of people working to just build relationships here in the community, and so we do that by setting tables that we can gather around from different demographics and neighborhoods, so we can meet one another's needs socially, physically, like in every way, right? So we're just working to create a well-built city, and these are all genuinely excuses to build relationship, but food is an important one. We think food is power. It's a key building block to self-determination, and so we want to share food. Well, that's an obvious table to set, but that relational goal might help understand some of the other tables that we set. One table we set is gardens, right? We want to work together to grow food. Or our bike shop down the street is like, we want to help provide folks with ownership of a means of transportation to get from point A to point B, because it gives them access to the rest of the city, its economy, its opportunities. All of these are building blocks of our vision, which is really just a well-built city, a city where we all have access to one another, to the foods, the things that we need, and to self-determination.
Working together is a great partnership that we have with the Well. So Dhalia, you tell us a little bit more about what the Well is and the partnership that we have with UACDC, along with the cooking classes, the kids, and the adult cooking classes.
Absolutely, thank you, Ronnie. And so the mobile free market distributes over 40,000 pounds of groceries every year to over 3,000 residents across 15 plus distribution sites in communities that are food insecure. And so as Ronnie mentioned, we have partnered with the UACDC to also implement both youth and adult cooking classes, as well as a series of recipe showcases. And really our goal here is to emphasize both the cultural and health benefits of food in our community, as well as build the individual's autonomy and independence in their community food system.
With the great partnership we have with the Well, we are able to create a strong relationship and be able to create new programs here at UACDC at Heart and Soul Park. So thank you so much for the partnership. And Jon, can you tell us a little bit more about the opportunity we have?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, man, thank you so much also for this. This partnership is so meaningful to us. And like I said in the beginning, like for us, everything's about relationships. So partnership is that as well. We want to just lock arms to kind of do this work. Super excited about this Partners Coalition, but also just thank you guys for learning about this community investment and partnership. And if you want to know more about the Well, just visit wellbuilt.city, and we look forward to see y'all soon.
I would like to invite Jon and Dhalia up. So first of all, I would just like to ask you a little bit more. Could you explain a little bit more about the way in which you guys are engaging with the University Area CDC and other areas within Tampa Bay through the Well?
I think I said a lot in the video about like really this idea of relationship at the center of everything we're doing, and this is included in that, right? So like building relationships with one another, building relationship with the UACDC, the rest of the Partners Coalition here, as well as just the neighbors around the community. We really find that it's in relationship that we're able to, well, hear one another's needs and address one another's needs. And so this, by the way, I don't think we got much into this in the video, but we also, one of the things we've locked into here with this relationship is sometimes in relationship we have assets and needs that correspond with one another. And so as we were building a relationship here, I was like, hey Sarah, there's a bus that's always sitting out here in the parking lot. It doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot. I could use that, and so we came up, this is actually some of the origin story of us over at Heart and Soul Park 2 years ago, and so we've been retrofitting that bus. It's taking forever because I have like a day a week to work on it, but it's about built out now. We're sending it into wrap here in a week or two, but it's basically a mobile grocery market. So now rather than having move the food from the refrigerated trailer to a table, we're going to be able to just pop open windows and people will be able to shop right out of the fridge, so things will never leave kind of the chill chain until they're in the hands of residents that need them. And honestly, also, there's a big part of like, for what we're doing, where I go, how you set the table really matters. So we say, well, everything we're doing is a table. The bike shop's a table. I know that's metaphorical, but it's an evolution of actual tables we set where we build relationships in the community, and we go, that's where relationship happens. But how you set the table really matters. Like the tablecloth matters, the centerpiece matters. And so we want to grow this thing into the most dignifying experience possible, right? Where it isn't just, I mean, honestly, when we started doing this, it was a black, some of y'all know the truck, it looks like a Mad Max, black pickup truck with cardboard boxes of food that should be in the fridge, in the back of the truck, in cardboard boxes and a table. But it's like, you start doing what you can, but we've been growing, and partnerships like this are what are gonna help us kind of evolve and offer and honor the dignity in our neighbors in a way that we aim at.
Yeah, and I can just build off that a little bit, because I think the thing about the Well that really makes us unique is that relationship piece. And it's actually how I got to know John, was at a table, at a service tabling event at the University of South Florida while I was an undergraduate. And I just started that initial conversation, and we recognized that we shared some of the same values and same convictions and same goals of really addressing this community from a culture-centric approach and a community-centric approach. And so a year later, that translated to me reaching out to John and asking if he was interested in helping to move the needle a little bit further in food insecurity towards what is kind of an evolving field in this space, which is food sovereignty. And really all that means is, can we get people that have been coming to the food pantry for 10, 15 years to stop coming to the food pantry? And not because we don't want to keep serving them, but because we want them to have that independence in their community food system. So not having to rely on a food pantry to pop up, or having to rely on EBT or SNAP. And even if they do, how can they utilize that better? And so that's really where WellFed is designed, which is an organization as part of the Well. And what we are convicted in is, again, the table is our place to create relationship, but getting people to be participatory in setting that table. And so WellFed is designed to have cooking classes, nutritional demos, for both youth and adults. It really recognizes that, we all love kids and it's great to work with them and they are our future, but a lot of the times their parents are left behind in those missions because it's not as glamorous to work with a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old as it is to work with a 6-year-old who is totally receptive to everything that you have to share. But it's equally as important, and if not more important, because at the end of the day, in their own homes, they're responsible for their table and they buy the groceries or wait in the line at the food pantry. And so, we really try to address the entire family unit with WellFed. And that's why it's really great working with the UACDC, because you have such a reach in your community, and a lot of community members that look to this space as a safe haven, as a place where they feel like they're being invested in and that their needs are being met. And so we just kind of get to bring those into our family as well and serve them in that way.
That is awesome. Awesome. Could you tell us a little bit more about the nutrition classes that you are holding over at Harvest Hope Park and how that's making an impact on the university area community as well, Dhalia?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the programs that we're doing over at the Harvest Hope Park is on the 4th Fridays, and it happens in conjunction with the food pantry as well as the garden workday. And the reason we designed it that way is so that we could capture more people into the garden and get them to see the entire process. And so that's everything from planting the seed to consuming the food and how to prepare it, and then back into composting. And so what that can kind of look like is just us setting up a table. We feature an ingredient, a different ingredient every month, and we try to always emphasize that ingredient is either in the pantry or in the garden, so something that is accessible. So even if that might be something a little thing that's unique, I think, about our pantry is that we get our free market is that we get a lot of fresh produce and a lot of good, healthy food, being that we pick up from Whole Foods at the end of the day. And a lot of people were leaving what some people paid $20 for at Whole Foods behind because they just didn't know what to do with it. Because it was kind of unique. We got things like bean sprouts and artichokes and eggplants and zucchini. And so intuitively, you see an artichoke. Does everyone know what an artichoke looks like? The first time you looked at an artichoke, it's kind of bizarre, right? And if you've never seen that your whole life, what are you supposed to do with it? So yeah, we just featured those different recipes and always emphasize zero waste in it. And yeah, interact with the community in that way.
That's wonderful. We are very thankful to have you guys over at Harvest Hope Park as well. John, can you tell us a little bit more about the free market and how you're really making such an impact in the university area community, as well as the overarching, the Well. I know the Well starts off as the overarching the Well, then we have the free market, and we also have well-built bikes. But all of that, fighting food insecurity, food sovereignty, and the ways in which the Well is really tackling that in the Tampa Bay community.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with the theme of community investment, well, let me tell you something different than what you're asking me, but to get at what you're asking me. So when I first started working in the neighborhood, I was doing in another neighborhood, but I was working with this after-school program with kids that, kind of at-risk youth program, whatever, and I'm there. It's one of the first kind of places that I was working and learning in the community. And this kid came in one day, and he had a king-size Snicker bar. And he was like, dancing, super excited, I got this king-size Snicker bar, and I wanted it, everybody wanted it, everybody wants it, right? And I watched this kid, without being told, open the Snicker bar, and break a piece and give it to a kid, and break a piece and give it to a kid, and break a piece and give it to a kid. And then in the end, he had a bite of this Snicker bar. Nobody told him to do it. And I'm not a super emotional guy, but I legitimately choked up. I had to walk out of the room. And the conviction was, well, that's a better human being than me, one. But two, I realized that knowledge of what it's like to not have a Snickers bar equals sharing. And that's actually what Social Security means. So Social Security, that Snicker bar was invested well in the community because tomorrow someone else might have a Snicker bar, right? And honestly, at the heart of what we're doing, and it's why I'm not in love with words like pantry and this and that, I'm like, this isn't, it is food to the hungry, but really we want to just model sharing and eliminate waste. So all of these grocery stores, because Whole Food shoppers don't want a pepper with a crooked stem, we get great vegetables, we get great fruits that just kind of aren't at their standards that we can then say, look, that should not be wasted. We can invest that into our community so that we build relationships with one another because they have something that we need. Insight and wisdom and knowledge of the terrain. And so it's so for me, it's well, again, I don't know how to address exactly what you're saying. It's we may or may not move the needle on food insecurity. But social security is developed by investing in one another and reciprocal relationships. And that is the thing we're trying to do.
And then if I could just add to that a little bit too, I think a really good example of what John just described there, that idea of it being a collective effort, is our Latinx recipe showcase that we had the other day. And so people keep coming up to me and thanking me for that event, and really it wouldn't have happened if it was just me. Sarah, who's over there, Marta, who works in the facilities, thank you, were the reason that event happened. And the amount of passion and time they put into making their Puerto Rican and Mexican and Brazilian and Peruvian, Alex actually, who works at the Garden, was part of that event as well, is what made that possible. And just looking at Marta's Mexican table alone, there was 7 or 8 different women who made that possible. Each one bringing the guacamole or the salsa or the sombrero or the Mexican dress. And so it was just a really beautiful example of, I think, what you were trying to get at a little bit, of we do things in a collective when we want to do them most powerfully. And so yeah, just a little tidbit.